Walk into any supermarket and the choices are staggering. Very often, whether it's carrots, tomato ketchup or roast chicken, there are at least two competing products of the same. So how do you decide which to buy? And following the horse meat scandal, can we trust what it is and where it comes from? To answer those questions, Finlo Costain from the campaign group Labelling Matters and Moira Raymond from the National Farmers Union of England and Wales, if I get the full title. Good to see both of you. Thanks for joining me. To you first, Finlo. Many people go to the supermarket. They'll have a shopping list perhaps in hand. Is it then important, how important is it, the labels on food from a consumer point of view?
Well, look, I'm a dad. I'm a young dad. I've got a 2.5-year-old and I've got a 2.5-month baby as well. And when I go shopping in the supermarket, I really don't have an awful lot of time. Time is incredibly precious. I want to spend it doing other things other than shopping. And so the labels are incredibly important. Providing information simply is incredibly important. And the campaign that I represent on behalf of 4 big animal welfare organisations is particularly interested in animal welfare. And at the moment, it's incredibly difficult to differentiate higher welfare, and that's the sort of label that I'm particularly interested in.
Okay, and we'll pick up on that in a minute. I mean, Moira Raymond, we hear that the average consumer has perhaps 3 seconds in the supermarket, I think it is, to look at the label. So from a farmer's perspective, that's your marketing, isn't it? The label you get on the fruit and veg or meat. It's very important for farmers.
It's extremely important. You stated the abundance of food in the supermarket, and I'm extremely proud of the way that farmers in Britain actually produce that food. And again, when I would say to consumers that we as farmers produce to the highest possible standard, we have the red tractor, which denotes the highest possible standards of production there is, and with the Union Jack that denotes Britishness. And again, when we do surveys at the National Farmers Union of consumers, they are looking for that origin of label. The origin of that food is so important, along with the standards they produce. And again, I would say to our consumers, look out for that red tractor logo. That's so important.
So that's one thing consumers can look out for. But Finlo, do you think that consumers have enough information to work from, given a lot of them, like yourself, very busy when you're going to the supermarket, other things to do? Is there too much information? Is there not enough? What's your view generally on the way labels work?
It's an interesting balance, isn't it? And I think you've hit the nail on the head. There is a lot of information, and what consumers really need in that 3 seconds that you mentioned, which frankly, if I'm spending 3 seconds, that's a long time in the supermarket. What I'm looking for are very clear and quick signposts. And Moira mentioned the red tractor. Red tractor is very important in denoting particular things. Country of origin labelling, of course, is coming and is changing within the European Union next year. That will tell us where the animals have come from. What I and the consumers, the 10 million consumers around Europe that my campaign represents, want to know is also how these animals have been produced as well. This isn't a new idea. The European Union introduced method of production labelling of eggs, whether it was eggs from caged hens, barn-reared eggs, free-range or organic.
So how would that work with meat?
What we're looking for is to see that kind of system, a mandatory point-of-sale system, easy to compare, easy and straightforward for consumers at point of sale on all products, but starting with poultry meat, because reserved terms for higher welfare poultry meat already exist within the European Union. We'd like to see those become mandatory so that intensively produced poultry meat is labelled as well as free range, as well as extensive indoor, as well as organic.
Okay, Moira Raymond, what do you make of that as an idea? Is that something you'd support?
There is a tremendous choice for consumers out there, whether it's the red tractor label or consumers can purchase Freedom Foods, they can go to and purchase organic as well. Yeah. So that choice is there. We had argued at the National Farmers Union for many, many years for country of origin labelling. And
but this type of labelling where it would say how the meat had been produced, whether it was organic, whether it was free range, or whether it had been...
Well, those labels are there at the moment.
Well, they're not
and
on
country
all meat, are they?
Country of origin is so important. That's coming into play next April. Mm-hmm. And again, that will denote where the country of origin of that animal has actually come from. We've been arguing that for many, many years.
Okay, but what about this idea of method of production? Not sure yet? You support it or you don't support it?
Well, we support the opportunity for customers to have a choice. So again, it's about clear labelling.
In light of the horse meat scandal, is there a need to reassure consumers, and might labelling differently, maybe this method of production labelling, for example, help?
Horsegate was a criminal, fraudulent activity, and the people involved should, in my opinion, be heavily penalised for what they did. The message to me from Horsegate is to the big retailers: shorten your supply chains. The consumers that we've spoken to since Horsegate want those shorter supply chains. It's country of origin. They want British product. So again, that red tractor with the Union Jack denotes that Britishness. And there were lessons learned.
Does that red tractor also represent to you kind of quality? Can you reassure consumers that British farming means quality, and that's what they're getting with the red tractor?
Most definitely, the standards within red tractor are the highest that you can find anywhere in the producing world. So again, it's getting that understanding, that recognition, and I say to retailers, I say to customers, look out for the red tractor. You can be guaranteed the Britishness, you can be guaranteed the quality, and you're being guaranteed the standard of production.
Does that give you some reassurance? You're obviously not going to meet exactly in the middle on this, but does it give you some reassurances that if the president of the National Farmers Union can say red tractor means quality meat?
What red tractor means is that legislation in the UK, legislation across the European Union, is assured that the standards there are at least at the level of legislation. Now, what I believe consumers want, and what surveys show that 8 out of 10 consumers across the European Union want, is to know also how that food has been produced. What a mandatory point of sale label like egg labelling does is to enable the consumer to identify that there's something that they don't necessarily agree with and prompt them to look for something more, which is why the British Egg Industry Council has not just recognised the importance of egg labelling, but asked for it to be extended to egg products as well as shell eggs.
Okay, and I'd like to move on slightly and pick up really on the horse meat scandal, which, because it had a huge effect on, and continues to have a very significant effect from a consumer point of view. One of the things that really annoyed people about the horse meat scandal was perhaps not so much that they were eating horse, but that they didn't know that, because on the tin it might say beef.
Look, I think this is where consumer desires and producer desires and commission desires kind of come together, because everybody wants transparency. Country of origin labelling is a really important step in the right direction of transparency, and hopefully it will help to cut that fraud in the marketplace. As I say, what I'm looking for is something more, is how the animal is produced as well as where it's produced.
Okay, Mairead Grayman, if you have a label that says made in Britain, up till now that hasn't necessarily meant in all products that it was something that was produced in Britain from beginning to end, and that's confusing for consumers.
We at the National Farmers Union have argued for many, many years for country of origin labelling from birth to reared to slaughtered, and that again is so important. It's been in beef for a number of years. We're now having it in poultry, in pig meat, in lamb as of April next year. We'd like to go on a stage further. I'd like to see it in processed meats as well. And those are the sort of messages we want to sort of reassure our consumers. We again did a survey with our consumers only a few months ago, and safety, country of origin rated first and second in their importance, and then following on from that was animal welfare. And again, I'm extremely proud of the way that we produce food in the UK.
So you see then this kind of labelling that's coming into force, and it's European laws, as you say, that comes into force next year. Do you see that as crucial? What kind of difference would you see it as making for your farm?
It will help to reassure our customers, particularly those customers who wish to buy British. They expect those shorter supply chains when we have been hauling food around the world through 3 and 4 and 5 different destinations. That is not what our British consumers are looking for. So we have learnt lessons from Horsegate, and I just say to the major retailers, please shorten those supply chains. Give us, as farmers, a fair return. We will invest for the future and produce that high quality food produced in Britain, which you demand.
Okay, excellent. Different points of view, but good to hear from both of you. Thanks very much, both of you, for joining me.
Thank you very much. Thank you.